Hi, this is Heather Lowe. Project is on a book called What's Going On in There, How the Brain and Mind Develop in the First 5 Years of Life. Um, this book was very good. The author is Lisa Lise Elliott. Um, she talks about how um, the brain develops during the first 5 years of life. She said that it focuses on the interactions, about biology and the environment. The book begins by exploring the development of the child's brain while in the womb and explains how the heredity lays the foundation for a child's neurological growth and development. She tells readers that prenatal experiences like the nutrition of the mother and stress are a huge impact on the unborn child's developing brain. Um, she then moves on to the child's infancy and toddlerhood and explains how the brain develops rapidly by forming trillions of neural connections. Elliot, the author, is a mother and a neuroscientist, and she combines her research with practical insights to help readers grasp how a child's brain forms and changes during these first 5 years of life and while they're in the womb as well. She talks about how sensory experiences like hearing, touch, and smell shape the neural pathways of the brain while genetics lay the foundation. She said that the environment, the stimuli in the environment are very critical in shaping the neural pathways of the child's brain. And she talks about how children understand their world by using their senses from infanthood, toddlerhood, and all the way through early childhood, and how this contributes to their emotional and cognitive growth. Um, for example, their touch is important when fostering emotional bonds and developing the vestibular system. Um, Another thing that she says that was really important that I liked was how talks about how the development of motor skills, um, and how during this early part of their life, things like stress, inadequate nutrition, and lack of stimulation um, are challenges with these children. She explains how the infant's reflex movements developed, um, and then into toddlerhood. And she talks about their physical activities and how this is also important to their cognitive development and how it connects to the motor advancements of the brain's maturation. She goes into depth about language acquisition and how the stages in language development, from cooing to babbling to formations of words and sentences. Um, explains how significant their social interactions are and how they need to be exposed to lots of language rich environments and so that their linguistic skills can develop. Um, also talks about their interactions between nurture and nature and how this gives readers evidence that genetics predispositions are important, but also the environmental factors like social interactions and stimulation, nutrition. All those things are very important in developing the brain of a child. Okay, when it comes to usefulness and application, she talks about how um, complex concepts are presented understandably by using clear language, and she also includes clear examples um, about how they develop and about her neuroscientific research, how it provides depth and credibility. Um, she talks about how important the experiences are and interactions in shaping and developing the brain. and she gives suggestions for early childhood educators and teachers and parents. I'm sorry, and caregivers that were very helpful. Some of the examples that I found were what we talked about, language development earlier in their early years, how children, regular conversations, read alouds, they introduce them to lots of vocabulary and stimulate the neural circuits in their brain, which are associated with language and storytelling sessions, how these interactive discussions promote their linguistic skills. Um, Parents could also use these findings. It was really interesting how she was talking about how their motor skills develop, and she gave some examples about that parents could engage children in outdoor activities like running, playing ball, climbing, playing learning activities, like obstacle courses for gross motor, and then for fine motor, she said that providing toys that require precision, like blocks and puzzles, these kind of things that enhance hand-eye coordination and problem-solving skills, and how important it is for parents and to use those at home when they're working with their kids, and how the teachers can explain them and their importance to the parents. Um, okay, some of the main arguments that she presented were how, like we said, genetics and environmental factors are important when the brain is developing. Um, she gives a balanced perspective about this, and it shows how this enriches the child's um, development, their language, their physical, their cognitive development, and sorry, some of the strengths were the book's scientific foundation includes a vast amount of references to research studies and experiments in the field of early childhood education. I felt like she did a great job explaining these complex concepts in regular language so that everyone can understand. Um, she talked about how speaking to infants is important, sensory rich activities, and how all these are grounded in lots of different necessary evidence. Um, there are a lot of topics in the book, from perinatal development, language, to and this promoted a holistic view of early brain development. I thought. Um, the limitation that I found, um, the book said um, the book was published in 1999, so there could have been a lot of neuroscientific research that maybe progressed and changed throughout the years. And also, the book reflects mostly Western ideas. So, um, all around the world, we're not sure, how this may be different in other places. Um, Diversity of parental practices worldwide. Um, let's see, and then the policy. Um, Educational programs can incorporate activities that align with critical developmental periods, which would improve early childhood learning outcomes. The policies can promote initiatives that educate parents on the importance of early experiences and provide resources on how to create a stimulating home environment. I thought that was very important. Um, Equity and social justice, I found that The book could maybe go deeper into the unfairness that exists in early childhood developmental resources. For example, how policymakers may address inequalities when it comes to access to quality childcare or healthcare, which directly influences the children's brain development. She explained how the socioeconomic factors um, influence developmental opportunities, and she advocates for providing all children with background that are enriching and high quality and educational experiences. A current issue that I found, um, the book touches on screen time and how for young children, but it doesn't really address the debates concerning its impacts on cognitive development. Um, Maybe exploring this topic further would help the book to be more relevant to modern parenting challenges, as children are always on their screens. It seems like a whole lot more than we were when we were kids. We were outside playing and playing games, running around, um, and then overall, I felt like the book gave readers a good understanding of the topics that were discussed, and there was a lot of research to back it up. Um, Maybe she had added a global perspective and addressed systemic barriers to early childhood development. It could enhance its impact in early childhood and early childhood fields. If I were the author of this book, I might suggest like including case studies from different cultural contexts and focusing on advocacy for structural change in early childhood education. I thought this was a great book and it was very interesting for people who would like to understand how the brain develops in children from prenatal to age 5. The book provides a very strong foundation for parenting and early childhood educators' practices, as well as reinforces how important it is for nurturing care in the early years of a child's life. Thank you very much.